without wasting any time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who I am very excited to hear from, Dr. Jeremy Thornton. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Jeremy Thornton. He is a chiropractic physician. He is a board certified internist. He's a board certified clinical nutritionist. He has been practicing natural and functional medicine for 28 years. He's been on the Bepic/Origin top world recruiters list multiple months in a row, and his highest month was in April with 124 recruits in 1 month. And that is huge. That is awesome. It's huge. He's a diamond rank, and he keeps growing his teams more and more each day. Many people have listened to his lives that he does, and they are awesome to listen to. He is so full of great knowledge. We are excited to hear from our awesome Dr. Jeremy Thornton. Take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. Who is excited? Who is pumped up by now just with these speakers? If you're not pumped up, if you're not excited, you might need to check your pulse this morning. So I'm excited to be here. And, we might have come into this conversation, thinking we were talking about a fat loss supplement, right? Some of you are here because you heard about something that might help you lose weight. And now your mind is blown. And I'm going to continue to blow your mind because you're going to come out of this brief section here realizing that we have our hands on probably one of the most exciting products in the area of anti-aging and longevity, right? Did you ever think that these drops here would improve your quality of life, your longevity, would have anti-aging capabilities? And that's exactly what we have our hands on here. So when most people hear the word longevity, they think about living longer, but it's not about living longer. It's about adding not only about adding years to your life, but adding life to those years. So it's about maintaining energy and strength and independence and resilience and quality of life as we age. So most people think about aging as they assume decline is inevitable, but what if we've been looking at it backwards? Maybe it's we don't stop moving because we get old. Maybe it's because we get old, or we get old because we stop moving. And so I'm going to talk about 4 drivers of decline. Muscle loss. If we lose muscle, we lose strength, right? Mobility, balance, and independence. Inflammation, chronic inflammation accelerates aging. Metabolic decline, changes in metabolism can lead to insulin resistance, weight gain, fatigue, reduced energy production, and gut dysfunction. A compromised gut can affect nutrient absorption, immune function, inflammation, and overall health. And so we're going to talk about 4 pillars of longevity that support health span, vitality, as well as longevity. So we're going to look at these 4 pillars that have a profound influence on us and how we age. So we're going to start here, as you can see, with metabolic health. The foundation of healthy energy production, glucose regulation, and body composition. Muscle preservation, the key to strength, mobility, insulin sensitivity, and long-term independence. Cellular protection, protecting cells from oxidative stress, chronic inflammation that accelerate aging. And gut integrity, supporting nutrient absorption, immune balance, and health of the intestinal barrier. And all of these are going to lead us towards energy, vitality, and longevity. The ultimate outcome, of course, when we first support these pillars. So this, Dr. Caesar did an amazing job, talked about this briefly. I'm going to share numbers from here in the US, but this is a bad problem worldwide. Maybe not as bad as ours, but it's up there, right? So metabolic health, 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. That's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, right? 72% of US adults are overweight or obese. 1 in 3 Americans are pre-diabetic. 1 in 8 are diabetic. 78% have insulin resistance, or 70 to 80%, sorry, may have insulin resistance. And we don't exactly know that number. Why? Because we don't often measure for it. One of the best measurements for insulin resistance, which of course starts years, likely decades before somebody might get the diagnosis of diabetes, um, is fasting insulin testing, right? And a lot of times we're just not looking at things like that. This can drive an epidemic, right, of heart disease, stroke, cancer, Alzheimer's, and premature death. The statistics over the years are startling. In the 1960s, here in the US, only 13% were obese, and today it's over 42%. It also crosses over into kids, which is probably one of the saddest things that I get to see as a provider and a practitioner is that we're starting to see obesity in kids. We're starting to see blood sugar problems in kids. We're starting to see type 2 diabetes in kids. Now, this just wasn't seen even just a few years ago. So in the 1970s, only 5% of children were obese. Today, it's 22% of children are obese. So metabolic dysfunction leads to chronic disease. Of course, all of this significantly shortens lifespan. So this all starts with insulin resistance. A lot of times, you might have heard of insulin resistance, but maybe don't fully understand it. So insulin resistance is when the body starts to not listen to the insulin message, right? So we consume foods that raise our blood sugar, right? The pancreas responds quickly by producing insulin, its job. The pancreas wants to keep that blood sugar in a very tight parameter. When it gets outside of that, of course, it sends the message. Insulin has the key to unlock the cells in our brain, our muscles, our body, lets that sugar into the cell so that we can use that cell for use that glucose for energy, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. But we tend to drive this system way too hard, right? With our sugars, our processed carbohydrates, right? Our starchy foods, all things that drive this blood sugar and drive it and drive it and drive it. And every time that sugar goes up, the insulin goes up too. And I kind of like to use the analogy like the boy who cried wolf. Our cells are seeing the sugar, the insulin, the insulin, the insulin, the insulin, and they're like, oh, big deal. It's just more insulin, right? So the cells aren't listening to that insulin message like they used to. And so now the pancreas says, well, maybe I just need to yell a little louder. So it cranks out a little bit more insulin, a little bit more insulin, a little bit more insulin, the sugar continuing to try to keep that in that very tight parameter. And this goes on again for years, maybe even decades before, although we have all of this insulin in the bloodstream, the sugar starts to raise anyway. And now we're in trouble, right? Now we've crossed over from insulin resistance into pre-diabetes and diabetes. And then, of course, that drives all of the things you see here on the bottom: heart disease, cognitive decline, cancer. Fatty liver is driven by insulin resistance. And of course, it's going to impact our energy, our vitality, and of course, our longevity. But I'm excited to share the benefits of our bioactive peptides and some of the research we know about that. Dr. Caesar talked about this briefly in some of his presentation, but we know that these peptides support GLP-1 and GIP receptor activation. This helps appetite, of course, satiety signaling, glucose metabolism, insulin function, the DPP4 inhibition. And this is an enzyme that quickly breaks down all of those GLP hormones in the gut, right? It breaks them down quickly. This has been shown, our amazing Triglp and Ignyt technology has been shown to inhibit this enzyme. So it supports normal incretin activity. Those are those hormones, the GLP-1, the GLP-2, the GIP, and healthy glucose regulation. And so it allows those GLP hormones to stay at higher levels in the body for longer without allowing that enzyme to break those down. Improve glucose uptake. So of course, it's going to improve blood sugar, A1C, insulin, all of these things, insulin resistance. And of course, we've talked about already a little bit about body composition, reduced BMI, reduced body fat. And what I want to point out is it's fat targeted weight loss, right? We're not talking about muscle loss. We're not talking about bone loss. We are talking about fat loss, and that's exciting. So muscle preservation, we're supporting, strength, of course, is important for mobility and independence. Metabolism is muscle is a major driver for insulin sensitivity and metabolic health. Resilience, higher muscle mass associated with lower risks of falls and frailty and hospitalization and mortality. And muscle preservation is important for bone health. And that's why oftentimes they call muscle the missing piece for longevity. And Dr. Caesar touched on this. I love the visual that he used. There's a big difference in how we age if we can maintain lean muscle. In fact, that's probably one of the most important goals in healthy aging. So the science of muscle preservation, this information here blew me away, and how well this technology supports lean muscle tissue, helps us keep our muscle and even build muscle. So the myostatin, it's a substance that acts on the natural, it puts the brakes on muscle growth. I'll put it that way. Activin, it elevated activin is associated with muscle wasting and chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and fibrosis. So these things put the brakes on muscle preservation, right? They encourage loss of muscle. Well, look at this. Our technology has been shown to have 38% suppression of myostatin and 42% suppression of activin A. That's huge, guys. And not only that, but we have rapid amino acid delivery. So we have leucine, which is a key trigger for protein synthesis. So leucine acts as a signal molecule. It activates what they call the mTOR pathway, which tells the body we have enough amino acids available. It's time to build and repair muscle. And so what I'm excited about is I get to see this also in practice is people are gaining muscle when they may have been using this for fat loss. And they're gaining muscle, which of course is key for anti-aging. It's key for longevity. And let's see here. We can't talk about longevity without talking about anti-aging and oxidative stress. And let's see here, trying to keep on time. So oxidative stress occurs when, of course, free radicals exceed our body's defenses. So this causes DNA damage, mitochondrial dysfunction, reduced cellular performance, accelerated aging. And now we're starting to hear a lot, especially in the literature, about inflammaging, not inflammation, which we know that we can impact that as well, but inflammaging, which is chronic low-grade inflammation. This persistent inflammation has been linked to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, frailty, accelerated biological aging. So what drives this cellular damage? What drives this oxidative stress, this inflammaging? Well, it's everything in our lifestyle right now and in our environment, the chronic stress, the poor nutrition, the sedentary lifestyles, the environmental toxins, poor sleep, chronic inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction. All of these are driving oxidative stress, inflammation, inflammaging, and reduced longevity. Because, of course, our goal is not necessarily just to stop aging, it's to slow down the accumulation of cellular damage. And this slide is probably one of my favorite slides. What I'm most excited about is that our amazing technology impacts all of these areas in ways that I had never imagined when I came into this conversation. We talked about how oxidative stress contributes to accelerated aging and cellular dysfunction. We talked about all of that. But studies show we have a significant reduction in oxidative stress with this technology, significant reduction. And not only that, but we're having antioxidant gene activation. Research has demonstrated that this technology upregulates 16 protective genes and it downregulates 9 oxidative stress genes. So this is probably the most remarkable finding. It's not simply reducing oxidative stress, but a shift in gene expression itself. Research has observed this upregulation and downregulation, as I mentioned. In other words, the body wasn't simply experiencing less damage. It appeared to be increasing its own internal defense and repair mechanisms. This is just remarkable. And studies show that it supported these key cellular defense genes, right there, the heme oxygenase 1, FGH1, ALOX12, and that's pretty amazing. Not only that, but we also have studies that show the impact on healthy inflammation in the body by showing a reduction in key inflammation markers in the bloodstream, C-reactive protein, interleukin 5, interleukin 8. And this research study also dove into other areas, but this is one of the sections that I wanted to focus on. Not only reduce oxidative stress, but improved energy, improved wellness markers, improved skin, hair, and nails. We don't have time to talk about that today, but the research on skin and nails is amazing, and probably because of the anti-aging benefits of less inflammation, less oxidative stress, and probably because of the amazing collagen peptides that are in this technology. So longevity is about preserving the cells that power life. And then we can't talk about longevity and managing chronic disease and living longer without talking about gut health. Longevity begins in the gut. It's not about just what we eat, it's what we absorb, right? And so we have to be aware of nutrient absorption. We have to maintain a healthy gut barrier function. And we have to manage inflammation in the gut as well, because the gut is where most of our immune system lies, right? And so our technology supports and reduces that permeability. We hear people talking about leaky gut. Our technology has been shown to support this condition. One of my own personal experiences that I've got to see, well, of course, I've seen many things with our patients, but my own wife, who had a very bad sensitivity to gluten. She couldn't eat gluten or anything that even touched gluten without having severe GI distress, bloating, swelling, pain for hours. And guess what? With just in a few weeks after we started this, which wasn't a thing we were looking for, right? This wasn't a benefit we were expecting. She actually consumed some gluten unknowingly. And guess what? She didn't have a response. I was blown away. And so she purposefully tried one more time some gluten to see what would happen, right? And again, she didn't respond like she always has to gluten. And so why is that? Well, one of those reasons is gut integrity. And we know that our technology supports gut integrity, leaky gut, intestinal inflammation. And a large part of that is because of the GLP-2 pathway, right? It's often called the forgotten longevity pathway. So GLP-1 gets all of the attention, but GLP-2 is important for our foundation, right? Our gut barrier support, our nutrient absorption, our immune system health, and all of that is tied into longevity. So I'm moving right along due to time, but this technology is shifting what we know about not only peptides, but what we know about peptides and the human body and chronic disease, chronic inflammation, and metabolic health, leading to better energy, better vitality, and better longevity. Because, of course, it's not about just adding years to life, but it's about adding life to our years. And we have the perfect tool to do that. And so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys. I'm going to turn it back over to Jesus.